Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the third Antonio Talks talk show, where we talk about things. I'm Antonio, and I'm about to talk. So, today I have a great guest on the show. Actually, my first ever employee as an employer. Amanda Elliott, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very excited.
Good. How's your day been so far?
It's been okay. I'm a little bit tired.
Why?
A little bit hungover.
Well, you shouldn't be mentioning that on radio.
I will.
That's okay. And she drinks a beer while she's doing it too. No problem. So today we're going to be talking about something that I think is dear to lots of, leadership or people in leadership and their hearts. The Gen Z generation. The Generation Z. The ones that came after the millennials and that are in the workforce now.
Yeah. And you're the millennial.
I'm a millennial, absolutely. Your generation. And I want to talk about that. But first of all, before we go into it, as per always with our show, what I want to do is make sure that you introduce yourself, Amanda, talk about yourself for a little bit. Tell us who you are, what you're doing, and I guess just give us an insight.
Great. So I'm Amanda, and I was the first person here at Recruited. I'm the senior social media executive here now, so I just handle client accounts and do a bit of managing and that kind of stuff. I'm straight out of uni, and this was my first ever job, and I've just sort of been building myself up since then. And yeah, it's just been really, really great to be at Recruited and have the kind of opportunities that I've had. And it's interesting to be part of this workforce, so it's exciting to be talking about it on here. Awesome.
So Generation Z, this generation, they are the generation born, for those who don't know out there, the generation born between 1995 and 2014. I remember 1995 well. I was 6 years old and I was living on a council estate. And I remember that was the year that I was I was outside the front of my house, and it was after school. And you remember you probably still get them, but you know the drains that have the big, the slides in them, but you could pick them up.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to lift up this drain when I was like 6 years old, as I said. I tried to lift it up. I couldn't do it. And I'm outside my house here. This is on a council estate. Couldn't do it. But then I had this real, massive burst of strength. Pulled it out. Didn't just pull out the drain. I pulled it out and it smacked me in the face. And I had to go to the hospital.
Out?
No, I didn't knock my teeth out. But I had to go to the hospital because my lip was massive. Went into school the next day and my lip was absolutely huge. But anyway, it's the generation between 1995 and 2014. When were you born?
1996. So
1996. Wow. So you're literally top end of Generation
Z. Yeah, borderline millennial, but no.
Well, come on. We're not talking about millennials today, apart from we will do. So actually, let's talk about Generation Z people. So how would you describe your generation? What would sum you guys up?
I think technology. I think that's definitely, because I think technology has literally been the defining thing in our lives, and especially with social media as well. But, we've grown up in kind of this age where now, little kids, they have iPads. I don't have an iPad, my younger cousins, they all have iPads. When I was growing up, I didn't get Facebook till I was about 12, 13. Didn't have a phone till I was about, that same age as well. So in the beginning of Gen Z, it was very much when you were still playing out, but you were getting introduced to these kind of things. And then now it's just all about technology.
When was the first time you got, when was the first time you had a PC?
God, I don't remember. I remember being really young. My dad had one of those big compact ones. I think I was about 8, maybe.
8 years old.
I went on one.
Okay, so actually still halfway through. But in terms of growing up around social, it's been everything for you. So you were 10 years old, you say, when you got when
No,
you were on
I was
social?
13 when I went on
13
Facebook.
years old when you were on social.
I was 13, but I wouldn't have wanted to have been any younger. I was thinking about it earlier, I don't think a kid should be younger than 12 on social, personally.
What was your first social channel? Facebook, wow.
Yeah.
Do you still feel like you exhaust Facebook a lot?
Facebook's the one I use the most, because there's all this stuff going around about how people are leaving it, aren't they? And then going on to Snapchat. But the thing with Facebook is I think it's very, in a sense, for younger people, it's quite seasonal. So I was on Facebook solidly from ages 13 to 15.
Yeah.
Come off it when I was 15. Well, I was still on it, but I just never used it. And then I went on to Twitter, and then all of my friends were on Twitter, and it was massive. And then when I went to uni, you start meeting people from uni, you use Facebook again. And as you get older, you start using it. it. And now younger people, when they hit, you know, like 15, they're going on a Snapchat and they're going to use that because Facebook. I think Facebook serves a purpose, and I think when you're
what purpose is that?
I think once when you're, you know, 13 or whatever, and you're going on it for the first time, it's exciting. You're meeting, talking to all your school friends on it. But then when you get to 15, you see that your parents are on it, and you don't want them to see what you're doing. So you come off it and you go onto something like Snapchat. And then when you hit 18, you're starting work and you're going to uni and you're wanting to meet people on there, and it becomes a new platform for you because, you know, you have to talk to people, and it's a lot more practical for that than Snapchat.
Well, I think there's a couple of things there, but we'll get into this social shit later on. I want to talk more about the Gen Z lot, right? So the Gen Z lot, everyone was talking a couple of years ago, and for, you know, any of you talent acquisition professionals out there, or even any people who are hiring people, you know that there was this big sort of millennials expect this, we expect beanbags and free food, and millennials expect, you know, many millennials are self-entitled, and probably there is a bit of a truth in that. And I think actually there is a bit of truth in the fact that a lot of millennials, I'm a millennial, but a lot of millennials don't want to work their asses off. And if you think that, you know, if you disagree with this, tell me why in the comments. But I think there is a difference now with regards to Gen Z and millennials, because millennials have had it easy. You know, we didn't go through a huge recession.
Yeah.
We've had it, you know, well, I say we, I mean the majority of, you know, people in the Western world, millennials, who are, you know, they've had it easy. We didn't go through recession. We didn't go through any, you know, tuition fee rises. You know, we actually were able to just go to uni for $3,500 a quarter.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I'm talking about the UK here, so any US stuff, probably you've had lots of tuition fees, so sorry about that. But it's interesting to me how the Gen Z lot are a very different breed now.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
tell me a bit more about, so you said what sums you up technology, but then actually what sums the new generation, so like, yeah, your cousins up, technology, but really, like, tell me a bit more about Gen Zs. Like, what do you want, Amanda? Like, what does your generation want? And because you're going to be now a spokesperson for your generation on this show.
Yeah, I think we're unafraid. I think that's what we've kind of grown up with, because I think we grew up in a time of mass change, partly because of the start of social media and technology, but nothing's been hidden from us because of that. We see everything. You know, you go onto Twitter and you see everything that's going on. You see people debating about, you know, things that are going on in, you know, all over the world, in America, and we've had to be resilient because of the things we've had to deal with, like the stuff with education, you know, the lack of equality, you know. But the good thing about Generation
What do you mean,
Z
the lack
people,
of equality?
You know, there's been a lot of issues, you know, with gender stuff, you know, with, you know, all the LGBT stuff that's, you know, obviously that kind of stuff's being passed now. But it's like we've grown up with it and we're very, very accepting. And I think that's something that's really, really good about Gen Z people, because we've kind of grown up right in that middle bit, and we've, you know, equality is coming out from everywhere now. Yeah. And it wasn't at some point.
So let's go back to that, because so you're very accepting, and you are an accepting lot. I get that. So you guys are accepting. Is it because of the so what is that? Is it because of the access to information you've had?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that's it, because we've not been sheltered from anything.
Yeah.
And we've always had access to, like you say, to that kind of stuff. And there's never been anything. My parents never hid anything from me. That's just how I've grown up. I have those kind of parents. They're always very honest with me. And when you know something, you don't kind of exploit it, and you don't go out. It's something as simple as, you know, when you're young and, you know, drinking. If your parents, you know, if they're open about those kind of things with you, and you know that you're not supposed to do it, then you don't do it. I think.
So so your parents. So probably much like anyone's really in our demographic, or your demographic. So how did they feel when you were 12 years old and you were on your Facebook, or 13 years old, or whatever you want?
Well, I had to battle with them to go onto Facebook. They were both on it. I had MSN before that, actually. Hold tight MSN. I had that, but I did have to battle with them to go on it. They weren't massively happy about it. My brother went on when he was 13, so I think he was slightly older than me, so it was kind of my turn. But they were very, very wary of it, and they were very wary of, you know, the people I was adding. They never used to. They weren't the kind of parents that were, you know, were invasive. They never used to like go down my Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But they were always just very, very wary of what I was doing. But you know, I think just because of how they were, I don't think I sort of would have ever done anything on Facebook anyway, because it was very innocent. It still is.
Yeah. So okay. So let's go into that. So what do you think separates your generation from my generation, millennials? So what do you think the prime difference is?
I think It is. I think it's what I keep going back to. I think it's the things that we've seen. I think it's been a real time of shift in terms of, again, it is. I keep going back to it, but it is technology and all that, because we've had access to different things to you. So I think we've kind of there's not like that rose tinted view of things, you know. It's like we were growing up in a generation where sometimes, you know, you were playing out, but maybe not as much because you had access to other things and all these new things, you know, opportunity to go on holiday and all that kind of stuff. So I think we've kind of grown up in a bit of like a richer time in that terms. So I think that's what separates us from you guys.
And so do you think what is your perception of millennials then? So how would you sum up millennials as a Gen Z?
I wouldn't say they would differ massively from Gen Z people. Obviously there is, you know, the benefit.
Do you feel like millennials are entitled? Do you feel like we are quite entitled individuals? Do you think
Honestly, no.
Do you think we don't have an understanding of what you'd go through, or like what you've been through?
No, absolutely not. No, definitely not. Because you're a millennial.
Yeah,
and I've never ever got that feeling with you. I mean, to be honest, now.
But majority millennials.
I've never really worked with many like millennials. I think it's in the workplace that these things come to play as most. And I you know, they are a different kind of people, definitely. But I wouldn't ever say they are entitled. I think not even with millennials. I think once you start going further back, then you get a lot of the whole, oh, you've got it easy, you're so young, you can do this, you can do that.
Like, talk to me about that then. So let's go into
baby boomers and going downwards, you get the thing, especially when it comes to obviously getting, you know, borderline debate territory, but with politics.
Yeah.
Right. I've actually got a story. I met this lovely lady at the weekend. I was at a bus stop, and she was 82. She was a lovely lady, and I got chatting to her, and she was going around she was going to a Labour Party meeting. She'd been to a Tory one the week before. And then for the next Sunday, she was going to start going to all different places of worship for different religions because she wanted to see what it was all about. She literally said to me that she was sick of people her age being so closed-minded and thinking that things should always be how they have been, and that we can't undergo any change, and that things should go back to being this rose-tinted view, like with Brexit before we went into the EU and all that kind of stuff. And she was going around. And I was just thinking that was so rare, because there is definitely not that narrow-mindedness, but there definitely is that difference of opinion, and they definitely think that we are tolerant, I think, because the fact that we're so accepting and we believe in what we believe in, and we're not afraid to say what we want to say.
So do you know any Gen Zs who aren't tolerant of people? Like, do you know any? Because I mean, I don't know many Gen Zs, to be honest. But obviously, you're part of the generation.
You've always got people that you disagree with. There's always people that have different views to you. But what I find with people that, like Gen Zs that are not so tolerant and have, you know, stricter views, I think it's definitely the kind of like influence their mum, like their parents have had on them, because it's not, if it's something that it doesn't really interest them, if politics doesn't really interest them, they're quite likely to go with what their parents vote for, just because it's that kind of easiness. I don't vote for what my parents vote for. That's like a different thing, but it's because I've generated my own views on it. But I think sometimes some Gen Zs don't generate that because they're just not interested. And I think that can be quite a damning thing sometimes. So
how do you come up with your views on I guess politics? Like where does your source come from?
I go and do reading. I go on the internet and I go and do reading, and I learn about these things. You know, I was learning about things. Uni was what really did it for me, actually. Obviously, I wasn't 18 until then, so, you know, it wasn't something that was massively relevant to me. But when I got into uni, I actually moved in with a few people who were really into politics, and, you know, you start talking about it, start having those conversations, and you start to think, oh,
typical uni sort of shit.
Yeah, I know.
Where we all think we're
all in halls, sat in halls,
exactly.
And, you know,
we all think that we're sophisticated.
It was genuinely what happened to me, but it really opened up a new kind of realm for me, and I started, you know, researching and learning a little bit about it, and I really, really realised what I stood up for and what I really believed in.
And what is that?
Jeremy Corbyn.
So you're a big Jeremy Corbyn fan?
No, I am, definitely.
Good. I've got a lot of time for Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, he stands up for the
absolutely. So, okay, cool. So let's talk about your generation in the workplace. So obviously, you know, you have just graduated, so you're the top end of the Gen Z lot. Which means that you're the first bunch of your gen to go into the workplace, as you will.
Exactly.
And this is an interesting thing for majority of people who are hiring people, because every generation has a different viewpoint on how I guess or I guess every generation has a different viewpoint on how they perceive their work. Every generation has a different viewpoint on what they expect from a workplace. So let's just go into, and obviously, like I said, it's very difficult for us to dictate what Generation Z do by just asking you, but essentially we can get a good picture into what is a good workplace for you, and and I guess think about what your friends wanted, because you've obviously spoken about this with your friends in uni or whatever. What was it always that was the main things that you guys wanted from a workplace?
The biggest thing is stimulation, because you don't want to be in some kind of working environment when you've not got people around you that really motivate you and really bring out the best in you. I mean, I would absolutely hate to work somewhere where no one talked to each other, no one was really friends. I'm an outgoing person, that's just me, but I personally couldn't imagine anyone thriving in a work environment where they had no progression. There wasn't people around them that were motivating them and spurring them on, kind of thing. And it definitely, it's such a typical thing about the whole millennials want beanbags and all this kind of stuff. But to be honest, like when you've got that kind of setting, like the office that we're in, it's a really good vibe. Like I brought a friend in here last night, and it just kept saying how much of a nice vibe it is, and it's really inviting.
It's your boyfriend you brought in last night. I suggest you probably rephrase that, because if he listens to this, he's like a friend. It was actually your boyfriend, girl.
Yes. Anyway, and he was just saying. It was just, we're going to go red now.
Don't worry, Sam. I got your back, buddy.
It was just saying, how much of a nice vibe it is in here. And, I did have a friend come in here weeks ago, and he put it on his Snapchat, typical, and said, this is actually an office, because in here on a Friday night, it's like a pub, isn't it? Yeah. And it's such a social thing, and it definitely does help. It is nice to have a stimulating environment, and that's also, that adds to it. Like, I'd also hate if I was in an office that was, like, really old, and it was one little floor and all them blue carpets and all that kind of stuff. It's not my kind of thing.
And so the environment, so I guess stimulation is important. That's really obviously good for everyone. So what about, do you see careers as, like, how do you see a career? Like, what do you see that panning out? And obviously, you don't, I'm your boss, so you don't have, and I want you to be candid with me. The majority of people are on average in a job for 2 years, and I don't want that to ever happen. I want you to be with us forever, right? Yeah. But how do you see your career? Like, what do you see?
Well, to be completely honest, starting here completely changed my perception of my career. Like when I finished uni, I always had an idea. This is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go far. I wanted to make a lot of money. That's always been quite a big objective for me. But there was always that kind of worry that I wouldn't love what I was doing. But I thought that's okay, because if I'm earning good money, I've got a family, that's absolutely fine. But I'm at a job here where I absolutely love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love the environment. I love the progression, and just the crazy pace that it's gone at. And I've grown as a person since I've started here, and obviously you could second that, how much I am, like different to how I once was. So I think my idea of my career now is it's actually something that I really, really do. I care about a lot more than I thought I did, and it's more about doing what I love than just settling for something just because it's it's good money or whatever. So I think my goal is more depth. I think that's something that sort of changed for me, because I've got that.
Do you think that the majority of your generation feel about doing stuff that they love, or is it more actually?
I think it's a really good split between my generation, with the ones that literally just want to make money, and then the people that just want to do what they love and they don't give a shit about the money. Yeah. That's definitely what the split is, because I've got friends that are like that. But I like to think I'm a bit of a happy medium, because it is nice to be earning a really good salary. It's great, but I personally wouldn't be able to do it if I was getting a stupidly good salary, but I hated what I was doing. I wouldn't stay. I absolutely wouldn't stay, because it just wouldn't be any enjoyment. Day to day, you've got to be happy day to day.
So I read something about Generation Z being more entrepreneurial than the millennials. So millennials wanted more security. They want to be fed praise all the time, but actually Gen Z are a bit more. I read, and this is an article, and I'll link it, by the way, if you are thinking, I'll link it into this description of the video or the podcast. But yeah, so basically around that, actually Gen Z are more entrepreneurial, because as you said, they're fearless. You don't have anything to fear. I mean, whereas the reason us millennials, and not me obviously, because I'm obviously an entrepreneur. I hate that fucking phrase, but I am an owner of a company. Well, I am the fucking CEO. Yes, absolutely. But no, I'm the owner of the company, and And so, but the majority of our generation wanted comfort, and they want that praise. They want security. But apparently, your generation are a bit more entrepreneurial. What do you think about that?
I mean, I definitely think that's a very valid point. I know quite a lot of people that would be able to do it. You know,
Who?
People from uni. My boyfriend, he would definitely be able to do it. Shout
Shout
out.
out,
He would definitely be able to do it. And you know, there's a couple of people I met at uni who have just got that kind of way of thinking, and they're just smart. They're on the ball. It's probably, again, it's kind of their upbringing as well. I think that stands for it. But as a generation, I think definitely, you know, more entrepreneurial. But I think we're quite pragmatic. I think we're quite pragmatic because of, you know, again, you know, we've seen, you know, a lot of things, and a lot of things have changed.
What things? What things have you seen? Tell me. Come on.
In terms of like
what
uni,
would you say?
Right, so uni, for instance, raising tuition fees, right, and the recession, and having to deal with all this kind of stuff, right? It's, you know, obviously I'm not going to sit here and say we've had it worse than everyone else. I'm going to get absolutely ripped apart in the comments if I do that. But because we absolutely haven't had it worse than everyone else.
So I remember, let me just go back. So and shout out to all the millennials out there. I remember that. I remember our cameraman is holding up a sign at the moment saying, "Did you go uni?" Because Amanda always talks about uni.
I love it. It was great. It was great for years.
Dylan, how are we doing, buddy? You right?
To me.
Good. Okay, yeah. So I remember when the tuition fees. So my first year at uni, I went uni too, even though I didn't have the grades. I managed to hack my way into there. Do you know I'm from a council estate? So I remember the first year of university. There was a lot of. That's when they were talking about the tuition fee rises or raise.
What is mental though? One year of uni for me cost what 3 years cost you?
I know, exactly. So what I'm saying is that was happening, and we protested for you guys. So we were like, actually, I mean, I didn't really care, to be honest. I was like, well, let them pay more. Do you know what I mean? Is to be honest, I'm like, yeah, well, you should pay for your education, guys. No, I'm joking. But we did go and protest. We were in Trafalgar Square. We got kettled, is it? That's what they call it, kettled. They kettled in, where they basically the police wouldn't let anyone leave Trafalgar Square.
Oh, right.
I know it's Parliament Square. They wouldn't let anyone leave Parliament Square. And so we protested for you guys, but it didn't do anything. And obviously now you look at it, you guys have had that tuition fee raise. So
yeah.
so your debt to whoever runs the university fees is what 10 times mine or something like that.
Yeah, so 9 times 3, it's 27, and then obviously you've got to pay back all your loans as well. So
yeah.
that's another nearly like 16 to 17k.
So what did that mean to your generation? Because obviously you still went to uni, so it clearly couldn't have had that much impact on that.
Yeah, no, honestly, it did at first because there was this absolutely mental thing. Everyone was going mental about it. So when I don't remember what year it was. So however old I was, you think, oh God, this balls me right up. I'm never going to be able to go. That's the instant thing that you think. But then I think the thing with all the tuition fee stuff is it's not good. I mean, it isn't great that it went from 3 to 9 grand. Like, I still stand by the fact that it wasn't good. But there's a huge miscommunication with it, because the instant thought, you hear 9 grand a year, people go, oh God, how am I going to afford that? But they don't realise that you don't have to pay it up front. You know, you pay it back once you're earning a certain amount and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you do have that bonus. There's like a lack of communication there. And it's annoying, but tuition fees don't bother me as much as the whole student loan situation does. Because I didn't get enough money.
Tell me about the fucking tuition student loan.
I didn't
What
get.
is this?
That's your maintenance loan. That's the money they actually give you to survive on.
Oh yeah, that one.
So I got 5.5 grand in a year, right?
Cash.
Okay. But because on paper my parents were middle bracket, but they, you know, a house, 2 cars, mortgage. They don't have that kind of money. My brother.
They've got a house, 2 cars. They don't have that kind of money. What are you fucking talking about?
No,
they have a lot of
because
money.
they work.
Tony's doing well.
No, shout out to Tony. No, because it's not the kind of money that they actually have when you actually put it all into that. But their actual
House,
combined
2
earnings
cars.
on paper, outgoings, my friend,
More entitled than the millennials, this Gen Z lot.
They didn't have that kind of money, but because of that, they had my brother at uni as well. We were there at the same time. So on paper, they had that money, but they didn't actually. So I got a shit loan in return for that. My loan didn't cover my rent. I had to work, and I didn't mind. I did.
Where did you work?
I was a barista at the uni coffee shop, and it was great.
Great.
Shout out to baristas. Dylan was also a barista.
Dylan's our cameraman, the man who can.
Well, he was. And it was great. I was very lucky because it was really well paid. I was really lucky, and it did keep me on my toes.
So how did I guess so what I'm trying to get to then is you guys were hit with the tuition fee rises. Like, so do you know anyone who didn't go uni because of it?
No, I don't. Everyone I know still went. I think at my school,
Everyone loves a bit of debt.
Yeah, I think at school, my year, I think that was the most people in 1 year they'd had go. Each year it just kept going up, and my year was...
Well, great. So that means that... No, but I love it because I think that is important, right? So how important is education then to people? Like to your generation, how important do you think education is?
It's huge. But I think it can be quite subjective, if you kind of pardon the subject pun. I think if you're wanting to be a doctor, if you're wanting to be a teacher, then... a degree is something that you need. You have to have it if you want to do that. Whereas for me, my education felt like the most important thing at the time. Like I'd have moments where I didn't get a really good grade and I'd really, really worry about it. Like for A-levels, I got some grades that I wasn't very happy with. And then I went to uni, I thought everyone was going to be talking about it. I'd have the embarrassment of it. But it's like once you get to uni, no one cares. No one cares about the grade you got. So I think for me, you would have given me a job even if I didn't have a degree. A degree isn't important to some bosses like you.
No, that's it. I tell you what, though, it's interesting that because... actually, let me ask you another question before I go into what I'm going to say. So the amount of people that... you'd panic over your shit. Dylan, would you panic over your... Did you go uni?
No.
I can't fucking ask him then. No, but Dylan, would you... If you went to uni, would you panic over your grades? Yeah. Would you panic... Dan, did you go uni?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did you panic over your grades?
Yeah, especially in the second year.
So he panicked in the second year. Okay, that's interesting. So when I went to uni, right, listen to this.
Here we go. So what's your degree in?
Commercial music performance. So, exactly. So anyway, I didn't have the grades to get in, so shut up, love, because I still hacked myself in there. But, no, so when I went to uni, so the thing about what I was doing was that actually I'm the sort of person that you can't, like, if you tell me how to do something, I don't really like that. I like to lead my own way. And then I sort of got all really confused based on, because creativity, artistic flair, you cannot tell people, well, this is how you should be creative. Because that's the opposite of creative, right? That is the opposite. Yeah. So what you need to tell people is actually you just do this and then we'll critique it. So anyway, I sort of ask Ian this, I disappeared on the final year of uni, but I still had them chasing me saying, look, finish this course. And my dissertation was absolutely terrible. Like, it was terrible. I was just putting words in just for word count, but I still passed.
Yeah.
I passed just for participating.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have passed. I should have failed that dissertation.
Yeah.
I should have been a fat failure on that university. I wouldn't have bothered me anyway. But what I'm saying is that the interesting thing is just for participating, maybe because my performance stuff probably worked really well.
Yeah.
So probably that's why actually I didn't really think of that until now. But the point is that my dissertation was a shit show, and so I've never seen education as a thing where you go, well, this is really important. I never worried about it. I used to never do my homework. Used to be in isolation all the time in school.
Yeah.
I've never really worried about it. I've never really worried, but I understand your point of view, and I'm not saying what I did is right. I'm not saying my viewpoint is right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. I've never worried about it, so it fascinates me when you're talking about how you worried about it and you're worried about how everyone else thought about it.
Yeah.
And also it fascinates me about how you guys, the video team, even they would worry about it. So this is an interesting thing for me because what is that?
A lot more lies on it now though, because until you get out of uni, you are fed that if you don't go, you won't get a job. Yeah. Like you are fed all of that constantly. Like Dylan's nodding. Like,
did you feel that, Dylan? Come in, Dylan.
Yeah.
Come in.
Oh, I don't want to be on camera.
You don't need to be on camera.
No, I do agree. Yeah.
You agree, yeah? Okay.
And that's just constantly what's said to you. So you have this absolute panic. And then a lot of people, I always wanted to go to uni. It was never not an option for me. I was very suited to uni. But there are a lot of people, you know, they get into first year, but they've only gone because either their parents have wanted them to go, or they've gone because they think they have no other option, and they've absolutely hated it, and they've ended up dropping out, and they've wasted a year and £9,000 or however much it is, and with all their loans and everything on top of it, so it's probably more than that.
Yeah.
And it's a waste. And it's like, in my halls in first year, there was like a flat of 8, and I think throughout the whole year, I think we had about 4 people come and go.
Really?
And maybe more. And it's sad, because it's like, you know, people feel like they have to do something, and it's really sad that they've been led to that point. I mean, like I said, it was always an option for me, and I loved it from the get-go. But yeah, I mean, it is because you're constantly told that you have to go.
So how many of your friends who studied whatever they studied, like you studied what? English literature? Media. There we go. See, that's
music.
See, that's how important education is to recruited. We don't care really.
Yeah.
But the point is that so you studied what? Media
and communications.
Media and communications. Okay, great. I'm glad you're in a good position then. But what about your friends, like who studied other things, or even people who studied the same stuff? Or even people who studied the same stuff. What are they doing now? Are they working in media and comms?
No. Like a few of them are. If I think of the people on my course, I'm not gonna like name call people. But yeah, they're, you know. Oh, I've lost my train of thought now.
Oh no, because you know what Dylan's gonna do.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of people who are, so people who are, what are people? Do you think people really thought they'd go to uni and they'd get a job straight away into what they loved afterwards?
It's really funny because there are a couple of people that I knew at uni who were on my course, and they were, you know, what's the word to describe it? They were annoying in a sense of their success, because they thought they were going to go and get a great job. They had this amazing internship that was great, and the reality of it wasn't that great, because they still haven't got a job, or they're stuck in somewhere that isn't that good, and they'd constantly blow their own trumpet. And then it's kind of like the silent people like me, because I used to kind of just sit there. I wasn't on my course, I wasn't the most vocal person, but I've got the best job out of everyone, pretty much. Everyone always says how good to me my job is. I've seen all your videos and all that kind of stuff. So I had that benefit of it, and it's really cool to be like that. But there are a lot of people on my course who haven't got a job. I know quite a lot of people.
And
but
what,
I
they're
think
working where?
Some aren't working at all. I haven't really spoke to some others. I think it's definitely harder for the creative people, because I think when you're trying to do something like film, or, you know, like a what else is there to do, like performing arts and all that kind of stuff, that's difficult.
It's a tough game, isn't it?
That's hard. Unless you want to teach, it's hard.
Well, exactly. It's a tough game, and I think I talk about this a lot to a lot of people too. Is that in you know, right now we're on the cusp of social media. Really, I mean, we're nowhere near where, you know, where social media is going to be. Like I said in the previous episodes, we're in a 10-yard, we're at 7 yards of a 10,000-yard race. And so in the future, these types of people like us, the creatives of the world, the people, the graphic designers, the film guys, and I need to talk about the film guys in a second, but the videographers, the editors, these types of people are going to be in high demand. However, I do kind of feel that there are people who are too, especially from the creative world, because obviously I went to a creative uni myself, there are people who are too in their art, that they're like, oh, I wouldn't work for a corporate company, I wouldn't work for advertising or whatever, because we're too in our art, we're too like, we want to make it pure, we think we're Johnny Depp, but actually, you know, the most creativity comes from creating something amazing out of a boring company.
I really agree.
And
because I never said I'd be involved with recruitment, and obviously we don't do recruitment, but I am involved with it, because that's what I do the social for. A lot of people still work for recruitment companies, start that one again. No, like I would always say that, and I started looking for jobs, and you know, you sort of realise that these kind of, you know, dream companies that you come out of uni wanting to work for, like places like Netflix and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and if you did manage to get a job there, then it'd be absolutely wicked. Yeah. But you start looking and you realise that there are a lot of options for you in other places.
Yeah.
And obviously I was referred, wasn't I, to you for this job?
Yeah, sure.
And it wasn't something that I ever would have considered, I don't think. But I obviously come and met you, and then it just completely changed my mind. And I love what I do now. And I get I feel like I'm making a difference. And it's not, sometimes it isn't in the exact way you thought it was going to be, but you're still making a difference. And it sustains you. It really does.
Well, it's interesting because I think most people need to not be so in their art and just go, creativity comes in many forms, and that's it.
Yeah.
So let's go further into the 2008 recession. Do you remember that? as a Gen Z?
Not really. I remember because we always used to have ITV News on when we ate dinner. The London one first, and then the general news after. I always remember hearing recession, and you seeing shops closing and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, I was too young. Obviously, I just didn't really feel the bite of it, and I wasn't massively sure what was going on. So I remember it, but not the sort of direct effects of it.
Yeah. See, I kind of feel like there is. As I said, your generation, you would have been sort of 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, whatever age you are, at the 2008 recession. And I think that actually at this time, you'd have been, what?
12, I was just thinking.
2008?
12. Yeah.
So you were born
in
1996?
I don't remember that.
Oh, yes, sorry, excuse me, yeah.
So 10 years ago.
So you would have been in that prime age where actually it would have impacted you. So I'm kind of thinking that, does this have it? Did you feel like it had any impact on, I guess, your outlook on your career?
Being completely honest, no, I didn't.
Great.
I didn't. I just didn't feel like that at all because I think because I was only 12, it wasn't the kind of thing. That was back in the times when I was thinking, I wanted to be a teacher, and the beauty of because that's what I originally wanted to do. But being a teacher is you always have options. They're never going to not want to hire teachers. So I guess it just wasn't really something that I worried about. And I think by the time I was actually deciding that I wanted to take another route and do something else, it wasn't as much of an issue kind of thing. So I think, so it honestly didn't really impact my life. If you ask my parents, it'd probably say something a little bit different. But I think I was just too young.
Unfortunately, we don't have phone a friend on here.
Yeah, I was only 12 years old, so I was more focused on
phone Tony,
MSN, and
Shout out to Tony Elliott. Okay, cool. So let's go into. So do you feel like baby boomers understand your gen? Do you feel like, or Zennials? So there's baby boomers, Zennials, millennials, Gen Z.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, obviously your parents aside, do you feel like, your parents' generation understand who you guys are, what you're trying to achieve?
More in recent years, yeah, I really do. I think, because again, going back to social, it's done it for them as well. Because I saw an article the other day that said parents have killed Facebook. That's what I saw. Because, a lot of kids are coming off it because their parents are on it, all that kind of thing. But,
Are you connected with your parents on Facebook?
Yeah. And Instagram. And Twitter.
Well?
Yeah.
Well, your parents have, I suppose my
dad's got Snapchat. Tony's got Snapchat.
Amazing. What's his handle so everyone can follow him?
I don't remember. It's like Synergy or something like that.
All right, we'll have to add it in later on. Yeah. Make sure you get it. Synergy.
Synergy, yeah. I don't
Bloody hell, Tony's getting a bit deep there, isn't he? All right, cool. And so do you feel like why do you feel like this generation understands you guys?
Because I think, it's a really tough question. But I think because obviously, if it's our parents, they've seen us growing up in the, with the big changes that we've seen in education and, all that other stuff I was talking about earlier. So I think they've kind of adapted to it as well. And I think, they've obviously adapted with us because they're obviously our parents and they've sort of seen that. And they all love a bit of social and they love, love an iPhone and all that kind of stuff.
Do you feel like our parents, do you feel like your parents are trying to be younger than more now?
So I think some can be, but mine aren't. No.
So do you think, do you think baby boomers are trying to be younger?
You definitely get some that I think give it a go.
I mean,
definitely.
some or like a lot. Like what does some mean?
Oh, see, I'm not sure because you see it sort of sometimes, but I'd say maybe less than a quarter.
So I kind of think that actually, as we grow older, but as social is more widely adopted, people are becoming younger. I mean, you think about not when we were younger, but even to be honest, no. You think about our nans, our granddads, obviously, God rest their souls, mine anyway. But, I don't know about yours, but God rest their souls. So, you think about them, they seemed so old to me, and they were my nan and granddad. Whereas I've got children, and my mum's a nan, and she seems, like, the way she acts is like, she's acting like she's bloody...
It's the same with my nan, though.
One
of my nans is only 70-odd. She hates Facebook and all that. She has a laptop. She has Netflix and all that. She has WhatsApp and all that, but she doesn't use any social medias. And she's still so young for her age. But she never tries to be, younger than she actually is. I mean, she still dyes her hair and, she loves going out and drinking and all that kind of stuff. But she doesn't do it in a way that sort of makes herself look younger. She just naturally is that way.
Yeah.
Whereas my other nanny, I thought she passed away last year, but she was a lot older. She was she was older by, you know, a few years, but it just in how she was, in her mannerisms, it was. But they were about 10 years apart, and I think that sort of made quite a big difference, you know, I think more than 10 years.
If you could sum up your generation around sort of what you expect in the workplace, like 5 things, or 3 things, 5, whatever, a couple of things.
It's like I was saying earlier, stimulation.
Yeah.
And good money, and room for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I
great.
think you've got a degree and you expect certain things.
So, how does your generation feel about the future? Like, what do you feel about the future? Because we're in quite an interesting time, right?
Definitely.
It's an interesting time. There's a lot of where there is there's a lot of issues being brought to light. And you can perceive them as issues, you can perceive them as not, whatever the fuck you think they are. There's a lot of things being brought to light constantly every single week, whether it's, you know, equality, gender equality, whether it's racial equality, whether it's you know, the way that people are
control and all that kind
yeah,
of stuff,
exactly.
yeah.
So how do you feel about the future as a Gen Z?
Yeah, for like a Gen Z, it's really easy to take it from different angles. So in terms of when you actually think about yourself and how you're going to progress in the future, for me personally, I'm in a good career space and that's really good. But things like Brexit and all that, there's that other side to it, and that does kind of, you know, it worries you because you're worried about what the future is going to hold in that respect. But I think, it's like I was saying, it's very, very easy to separate it all. And I think it's definitely easy to sort of differentiate. I think we have, especially in the last year, we've come into this really big thing about self-care and self-love.
What is that?
I think it's kind of the knowledge that sometimes it's okay to be selfish. And yes, there's things in politics that we have to worry about. Yes, there's, you know, things going on, but you do kind of do you at the exact same time. And I'll always fight for what I believe in.
What is this self-care, self-love thing? I mean,
it's quite a spiritual thing.
I know, I understand that, but it does sound a
spiritual
bit
thing.
like, and look, I'm not criticising here. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not criticising, but it does sound self-care, self-love. I think, what does that actually mean? I want to understand a bit more.
It's confidence in yourself and your abilities and what you can do.
So self-love, absolutely, I agree with that, self-love. But what is this self-care? Like, do we not, like, why do we need to know that?
Maintaining it. Because when you think about it, there's this, you know, there's a huge thing obviously surrounding mental health and the struggles that people have with that. And it sometimes, if things are going a little bit, you know, you're having a bit of a bad time or whatever, then it can be difficult to maintain self-love, like we were saying earlier. So the self-care part is just about maintaining it and making sure that you keep up with that and you believe in yourself.
What would you say, like, is do you think your generation suffers from mental health more than anyone else?
I think no, I don't think so. I think the thing with mental health is that there's been a lot more awareness for it now, and I think you definitely do. My parents always say that you hear a lot more people coming out and saying, you know, they've had anxiety or something like that a lot more than they did when they were younger. They say, oh, we just used to get on with it, kind of thing. But I think the difference is now is I think there's a lot more access and there's a lot more options for people. So I think people are becoming less nervous about speaking out about the things that are really troubling them.
So I'm playing devil's advocate here because at the end of the day, I know what it's like to have anxiety. I know what it's like to be in a depressed state. I know what it's like to have depression. But at the same time, back in the day, they used to just get on with it.
Yeah.
Are we, like, even millennials, like, at the end of the day, as someone who's been, you know, through anxiety and through that and still, you know, suffers from it, are we actually, like, weaker than the baby boomers were, or actually are we more stronger because we're raising those issues?
Yeah, see, I think the second thing you said about actually talking about it, because the thing is like you do see people who are, you know, in a really like tough place with it. You know, you've seen, you know, see things a lot more firsthand, and it's what I was saying before. I think there's just a little bit more accessibility, and I think, yeah, like you were saying, people would feel a lot more stronger that they can actually come out and speak about the things that are bothering them, because as more and more people come out, people realise that they have this. It's something like 1 in 5 people will suffer, like adults will suffer with a mental health problem.
Yeah, it's a big thing. It's an
issue. That's a lot.
But you know, and maybe actually it's also to do with, we got on with it before, but you know, do you think it's actually to do with the mobile device? Do you think it's to do with social media?
Because the thing is, it's like, what you could say is, this could be quite a controversial comment. Yeah, people used to just get on with it, but they didn't have much choice, really, because a lot of people, they have a bit of an online escape. you know?
Well, I'm talking the opposite, actually, of that, Amanda. I'm talking about, do you think it's that, look, I go onto LinkedIn right now, and I could see, to be honest, I go onto any social channel, and you see people who are portraying this they're creating a perception, right? They're creating a brand, which is, maybe they don't know it, but no one ever puts on fucking Facebook, oh, I've got piles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one ever puts their bad points. They only put the good things that are happening.
Got a few people on my Facebook.
No, obviously they moan about things, but no one's ever talking about them. No one's ever talking down about themselves, or no one's ever saying when shit hits the fan. No one's ever putting it out there. And only putting that. Look at me, I'm in the club. I've just got a bottle. Or look at me, I've just fucking won this award. Or look at me, I've done this. And I'm guilty of it myself. My LinkedIn is all about like, bang, look, this is what we're doing, gaining attention. But actually, sometimes I'm a bit more real when I'm putting posts out around, actually, you know, I feel like I'm failing as a father, or I feel like I'm, you know, so there is that. But this whole social media thing, which is that, you know, you've been brought up around, you are a native social media person. I'm not. I got into the pangs of it later on in my life, 17, 16, you know, when I started on social media. But this whole social media piece is that everyone's creating this identity. Yeah. And so I'm looking at that all day and I'm thinking, why aren't I as good looking as that person? But actually they're not that good looking. They've just got angles. They've just got the angles right down. They just put it right there. Okay, I look skinny there, or I've got a big ass here, or I've got big tits here, whatever it is. So do you think social media is making people feel shit about themselves?
Oh, that's a really tough question, because I think it definitely can. I think it definitely can, because you get people who, you know, people that have been, you know, cyberbullied and, you know, things like people that do get ganged up on social. But you know, whether that's a direct cause, I don't know. I think that's something that's a lot deeper. But I think if someone's got that kind of mentality anyway, I think social media can amplify it. Definitely.
So let's go back to that, actually, because that bullying thing is very important, and I think even it doesn't matter if you're fucking bullied as a you know, teenager, whatever the age, but if you're there's bullying happening on LinkedIn every single day. You know, there's bullying happening in the workplace every day. But I never knew, like, I've never ever experienced myself, you know, bullying on social media in the sort of when you were a teenager, because we didn't have social media. But did you know people were bullied on social media when?
Yeah, I
really?
did. Yeah, I did. There were some pretty harsh things going around in my school once. I'm not going to talk about it, but
that is mad.
And it was horrible. It was
and like, it's even worse. I think it's even worse when it's on social, because it's there, it's timeless.
Yeah, and people can actually see it.
Yeah.
So that the
whereas
thing is,
if someone walked up to me and said, "Look, give me your lunch money," I'd be like, "Well, all right then, geezer," but no one else sees this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I think social media is like anything, because there are negatives to everything, and that is one of the only things with social media.
I agree.
Is that it's a community mentality, but if someone does something and then someone starts bullying, it also applies to that same thing, and that can be quite difficult sometimes.
Well, it's interesting because it scares me, because my son, my daughter, they're obviously great. They will be pure fucking like Nate. Yeah. This is their life. They're in it. Do you know what I mean? They'll be in virtual reality and all that bollocks.
Exactly.
But the point is that it scares me, because unless we are equipped to deal with that type of flack, and even myself, you know, there was starting recruited, I've been more active online, and you see how much shit I get online. But now it doesn't bother me, whereas it did, like, a couple months ago, it did bother me.
Yeah,
now
and
it doesn't.
If you're that way inclined, it can be really, really difficult, because a lot of people who aren't that resilient, they'll take that to heart.
Yeah.
And it'll be absolutely heartbreaking.
And they'll stop doing it. So I could have stopped doing it, but I didn't. I just continued. And now I'm really, like, when I get a bit negative, when someone's like saying whatever, being mean to me, or whenever anyone's sort of like saying something negative towards me, I'm like, actually, I don't really mind.
Yeah.
And I play along with it now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it did really affect me. So I think that there's maybe something to be caught. So Dylan I got distracted. Dylan's just held up a sign saying, "Try to be as loud as Antonio," on the microphone. Dylan, you might as well just speak. You don't need to worry about it, buddy. This is an authentic show. You might as well just say and tell Amanda. Tell her.
Be louder.
Great.
There you go. No, so honestly, I think this is important because I think there's calls and for my son and my children and whatnot. I think there is a cause for how would you have. Well, it probably wouldn't have happened when you were in school, but would you have enjoyed now looking back or not enjoyed, but would you have benefited from having social media awareness courses in school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think is that something that's going to be implemented? Have you heard things about that?
I literally have not heard anything.
I think that's massively important now.
I think so too.
It's so important because when I was 13 and I got my Facebook account, Facebook wasn't as evolved as it is now. Twitter didn't exist. It was at that point it was Bebo and MySpace still, and then obviously everything else has come along since.
Yeah.
And each platform has got its own little qualm that could that people could go a little bit wrong on, and you hear things like that. So I think because of just social media is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And everyone is on it now, absolutely everyone, and people are getting younger. So I think definitely they need to have that awareness. And I think because we were sort of there from the beginning, you're quite aware of the boundaries and what is okay and what.
And it's how to deal with that bullying.
Absolutely.
So there was this documentaries that I saw before, which was I saw a couple of weeks ago, which was a lot of people killed themselves from just social media bullying, and a lot of people are doing it. So actually, this is something that we maybe need to look at ourselves and think that how can we go to, as a company, recruited or whatever, how can we help schools and go to schools and give this awareness as like a sort of what we do?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a real issue, and I think that unless it's like really and it's a confidence piece, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a confidence piece?
Yeah, definitely. Because
would you say you're a confident person?
Yes, yeah, but I think if I was getting bullied on social media, I think I'd go to pieces. I'd absolutely hate it.
Do you think so?
I think I'd really take it to heart because I'm just that way inclined. I am confident, but if something that kind of thing has come to my way, then it does upset me.
Interesting.
It really does.
Dylan, would you say you're a confident person?
Yeah.
How do you?
That would put off the opposite, wouldn't it? The fact that it's thinking.
Yeah, but how would you feel about if you were bullied online? If you had constant.
Probably just not go on the app or something.
Yeah, just avoid it. Yeah.
Just ignore it.
Yeah, that's a lot of the thing. Actually, that's a good point. That's something that we need to know.
It is sad because a lot of people can't ignore it. My personality, I can't ignore things like that. But it's really sad because if someone gets bullied on social media and they come off it, it's sad because you can learn a lot. You really can.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that I have learnt more from documentaries and tweets and things that I've seen online than I have from some books I've read. I can honestly say that I've learnt more about the world and what's actually going on. I've read a lot of books in during school and in uni and the things that teach you about those kind of things, but that doesn't help you in real life.
No.
You go on social media and that's where you get all your politics knowledge. That's where you get everything about all the stuff that's going on around the world. And, you learn, you see people from different walks of life.
Yeah.
And you learn a hell of a lot more about it. So I think it can be so beneficial, and it's sad if people are driven off it because of things like that.
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. We need to definitely. I think in schools, in the future, you'll find that there will be this dealing with social media, dealing with this type of thing. And I think it's so important because there is so much risk. But at the same time, we're thinking about the negative here. Look, social is brought the world together. There is actually a
our livelihood.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, it's there is that negative, but at the end of the day, it is so positive. And you think about how many people's lives it's benefited, how much light it's put in the world, as in raised issues and actually sorted issues.
Yeah.
So I think there is a with anything there's good and bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So. All right, great. Well, thanks, Amanda. It's been a really good conversation.
Yes, definitely interesting.
I think, I think for me, the Gen Z lot, I think we're still seeing whether what that looks like.
There's still a lot coming out.
I think we won't know until about 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
How Gen Z's like to work.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
You're only in there now. You're the older version.
Yeah,
you're the
exactly.
older one.
So it's still evolving because you've got the ones that were born in the 14-year-old ones.
Yeah.
And you're there in 5 years, they're all going to be turning 18.
Yeah, because that's a different world as well, right? That's a different world.
Yeah.
So actually, I think how can you put this Gen Z in one category?
Yeah,
because
it's rapidly
you're
evolving.
different. You're different to someone who who's born in the later end.
Absolutely, definitely.
So it's an interesting space. But really great to speak to you. Thanks for coming on the show. Subscribe to the channel, guys. This is a weekly thing. So every Monday we're releasing a show like this. The next show we have is with one of Recruited's investors, original investors, the people who trusted in me to make them money first of all, and what a trust that was, because they're fucking laughing now. So so James Ballard is coming on the show next. James and I are going to talk about all things data, GDPR, and how do we build successful recruitment companies. I would not have a fucking clue about how to do that, but he does. So subscribe to the channel to make sure that you watch the show. If you can't watch this show, listen to it on SoundCloud, in a podcast, on your commute home. Share a headphone with someone else so they can listen to, because we are bringing light to the professional world. We're bringing light to how culture happens, and we're bringing light to just having a conversation over a beer. Thanks, Amanda, again. Have a great evening. Thanks to the video team over here. If you've got any comments, obviously comment below. If you don't like what we're doing, then sorry. Thanks.